What's up, wrestling card collectors? Welcome to yet another edition of WTCtv. It's been a while since we've done one of these roundtable type sessions, but you know what better way to get back into it than with my three guests right here, man. I got Adam Gellman, Jamie Wallace, Ryan Schear. How you guys doing tonight?
Wonderful.
Doing great.
I'm good, thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Everybody sounds very convincing.
We're trying.
You're trying like that. So, you know, we're doing a quick little roundtable session hopefully tonight talking about, you know, collectors' mindsets. You three guys particularly, because you guys all have, would you guys all say you're kind of, well, especially Adam, we know for a fact you're a super collector. But you two guys, you know, Ryan and Jamie, somewhat of a super collector, but you guys kind of go across the board with a whole lot of other different things too. I mean, but you do too, Adam, but we kind of, you're known for being the Becky Lynch guy. So,
right.
And I know that Ryan is kind of, you know, for the Macho Man guy. Jamie, you're kind of across the board on a lot of different things. You kind of dabble in here, dabble there. You kind of go with the flows like that. So we're kind of going to get into you guys' different mindsets, you know, what's similar, what's different, and just kind of, you know, buying habits and whatnot. So first thing off the bat is, let's just start off with rules. I mean, everybody's got rules. We all have rules on how we manage ourselves, life, whatever. Do you guys have a set of rules of what you buy and how you buy? Let's start with you, Jamie.
Recently, yeah, I've just been doing a lot of staying in like Macho Man cards. Price
really
wise,
piss you off, Ryan. Gotta piss you off.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, it was kind of a slow build actually. Like I was getting some of his stuff, and then eventually I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna focus on like staying in him. And then like Roman I was delving into also. Yeah, I mean, rules wise, it just seems like the current like mood, I guess, that I'm in. I don't know. It does seem to like change a lot, but
I mean, we've always, like, even when I'm talking with Zan, we've always talked about it's okay to change your lane from time to time. It's all
Right.
right. I mean,
Sure.
There's no wrong way to really collect whatever.
Unless you come into my lane, then we got problems.
Then you got problems.
yeah, so I mean, yeah, it was just pretty much I withered down the focus on those two guys, and it's kind of been nice, you know. It's a lot like easier searching for things, and it's not as overwhelming for sure.
What about you, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's hard, like, when you look at the parallel structures of some of these sets, especially with some of the recent ones, but even going back to sort of the older days of football collecting and stuff like that, which I was in, like, there's always rules that you got to adhere to, or you're just going to overextend yourself. And I found that with myself this week. But it's like, yeah, I think for me, it's always been about, first and foremost, like the look of the card. Like, I'm not going to go chase stuff that I just absolutely hate looking at. I mean, I've made a few purchases just because, like, I felt like I needed the card for like a statement piece or something, and it wasn't all that attached to it. But, you know, overall, like, I don't chase a lot of the UK stuff because I think it looks horrible. I don't chase, you know, a lot of the older sort of Divas era Becky Lynch stuff because it's just not the era that I was really associated with. Because I didn't start really coming back into wrestling until my son got me back around, you know, 2016, 2017, when the evolution had already started. But, you know, it's hard to sort of look at the overall scope of your collection and say, like, I need to not have rules and just spend as much money as possible, because most of us have a limited budget. We just can't go all out.
Ryan?
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Adam said, you know, you have to put some restraint on yourself. You have to have a certain number in mind. Now, every once in a while, a card comes along that you have to have. You have to have it. You want to have it, and that's perfectly fine. The problem arises, in my opinion, the problem occurs when you have to have everything, and you'll do anything to get it. And, you know,
Yeah.
like for me, I have a really, really nice non-sport collection, which I've shown a couple pieces off to. And so I have to balance the non-sport stuff because the non-sport stuff is not cheap at all.
Oh,
I mean, that James Earl Jones autograph I bought, it was expensive. It really was. And, but I really wanted it. And I, you know, decided not to buy some other stuff in order to pay for that because I wanted that. And, you know, on top of, I mean, you can see behind me, I don't just do cards. I do memorabilia. I'm a Ravens collector, Baltimore Ravens collector. So I do Ravens autographs. I do UFC autographs. Some of those get expensive, the non-sports, wrestling, and just stuff I like in general. But you have to make sure you have a lane and you stick to it. One of my big things is I don't buy anything that's going to like, I won't like max a credit card to buy something. I won't do it. Like, you know, when the Black 101 Macho Man pops up, which it will, it's probably going to be a $2,000 or $3,000 card. I'm
yeah,
out.
easy.
I'm out. And whether Jamie gets it or somebody else gets it, that's fine. But I've already made up my mind that I'm not going to have a select Macho Man rainbow. I've already.
Yeah, I came to the same realization, and when Prism came out, I was like, there's no way I'm going to afford some of these cards. And then of course I end up with them at the end of all of this, but when I'd resigned myself pretty early on that the cost of a lot of the Prism stuff was going to be out of my range. But, you know, through wheeling and dealing and sort of setting up some really easy sort of investment pieces that paid off pretty well, and then being able to transfer that money into other stuff, like you can make it work eventually. But it was on the market for, like, the Prism Black was on the market for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks before I finally got my hands on it. And it took, you know, weeks of negotiation just to get it to a price that I could afford. So, I mean, to Ryan's point, like, he and I have gone back decades, and like at this point, which is kind of scary in itself, but you know, it's you know, we used to talk about some of the things that were coming out in football and just not being able to foresee how stupid people were going to be to buy it. And, you know, people would spend stupid money on the stupidest stuff, and we would just be like, yeah, in a couple of months, this isn't going to be that cost. And sure enough, a couple of months later, it's exactly what we said was going to happen. So I think the rules that you set for yourself, and just being able to adhere to a collection standard, but stay in your lane and just understand you can't have everything, I think is a clear sort of goal for most people in this hobby now, with the added cost of the boom that's happened.
Yeah, I'm in that same boat with I mean, though I have a cheaper character that I collect.
So far, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
yeah,
still
right, exactly.
there's still stuff I won't even pay a couple $100 for a Loomis card. I just won't do it. I just don't. One, not within my budget, and two, I just don't think it's worth that much at this time. So I literally just, as before we started talking tonight, someone had a card up there, number 5 of 5, that I wanted to buy. They got it for $75 or make offer. I made an offer. They countered me with their $75 listing price.
Like, what's the point?
Yeah, what was the point?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
But that goes, so I back in the day, and this is before kids, before mortgage.
Yeah, BK.
You know, when my wife and I were dinks, which is double income, no kids, you buy everything. Who cares? You don't have to pay for gymnastics. You don't have to pay for, you know, jujitsu or whatever. You know, you don't have $1,000 a month bill for activities like that. So you just kind of, a lot of this stuff was purchased pre-K, before kids. So, you know, what I've learned to do is, so when you have new products like this, so Jamie picked up the first Macho Man, you know, and it doesn't help that we're collecting like top 5 people here.
Right, that's the worst part of all that.
Not me. That's why I stay over here, man. In my leg.
So you're like the smart one. Now, I also collect Brutus Beefcake autographs, and it's easy for me to top out anybody on that. It's just, there's just not that. I mean, I haven't seen a Super Fractor autograph or a Black 101 autograph yet, so I don't know what that market's going to be. But I got his gold for $100, which honestly, the next one will probably go for 60. because without my bids, it didn't get to $100. If I hadn't been, it probably would have ended at the 55 it was at with a minute left. So, what I've learned is all these products, all this stuff is fresh and people are opening it. And now that retail's out there and some of this stuff kind of cross-pollinates between retail and hobby, the cards are going to be out there. And so like Jamie picked up the first gold Macho Man Concourse. He picked up number, I think 8 of 10. And I held back on that because A, I knew he was going to be in on that. And B, I didn't want to drive him up so that when my shot came up to buy one of the other 9, I didn't shoot myself in the foot and push him to $500 or $600. And then the next guy's like, oh, well, the last one sold for 600. I'm like, well, yeah, I pushed it from 300 to 600. It's actually 300.
Right.
So it's 600. So,
Smart.
I knew you were going to be in on it. And you know what, when a green pops up, we'll probably talk about it also. It'll be the same thing. Go ahead and get it. And there's 4 more, or there's 9 more, or there's 24 more. One-on-ones are a different beast, but there's
There's
That
40 of those too.
Yeah, well, that leads into my next question. Then it's like, how does price factor in your guys' buying when you're looking for those hard to find cards in? When you know that, let's say that it's a number to 10, and you know that 7 or 8 of them already hit the market already so far. Those last 2 or 3.
It never gets to that point. It never gets to that point.
But wrestling card collectors are different, man. They hold on to stuff and just don't release it.
I think like we're talking, if you're looking at like older stuff, like I don't think that there's many people out there that track it like that. First of all, like, yeah, wrestling, and we've talked about this on previous videos, like wrestling collectors just don't move stuff. But, for these new products, like, Select and Prism were opened to the moon. Like Panini expects like 60% of a product gets ripped in the first week, right? So like, especially now you're seeing a flood of stuff. But now you look back at like the Prism stuff, like there's nothing that comes on the market. There's 1 or 2 cards numbered, just the entire run numbered comes on the market every week or even every month. So and that's for like the high end, like people, like the lower end people, like it's even less because people just see this and like, oh, this is crap, I'm not going to list it. But when you go back to like the older stuff, like let's use Undisputed because that's really one of like the most highly collected WWE products that's out there, in Chrome even. I don't think really people track it like that. We're like, oh, 7 of these 10 have already surfaced. Like I never did. I think
when you get back, you said Chrome, but you go back to like the super fractors that we know that are 25.
That's different. That's one
and that's no super fractors are number 25.
The old Chrome.
Yeah, the old Chrome. You start seeing stuff like that, and like, if there was a Macho Man one or something like that, which there isn't at that time, but if there was,
God,
yeah,
that would be a big competition card. Yeah,
it becomes
or Hogan.
hard.
Yeah.
They're numbered to 25, and there's also speculation, of course, that there's other ones that are probably more than that because there's other unnumbered ones that have hit the market. But stuff like that. What do you do? Like, when does price become an issue for you? Like, I got to have that card.
For me, if it's like a couple, like $100, I know I could probably like buy it right then and there. If it's in the 4-figure range, I know I'm gonna have to sell a few things. Again, sometimes you just got to live within your means. Or lately I've been doing a lot of like trading, possibly over trading, but like I said, my focus has been down to now these just staying in Macho Man. So if I really want it, I'll like overpay. I'll maybe trade away a little bit too much to get it, but it's got more sentimental value to me. So
well, I think we'll all agree that the pain of losing an item greatly outweighs the pain of a couple extra bucks.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like if you okay, so for instance, everybody who knows me knows that I want this David Bowie autograph.
Yep.
Everybody who I've
I
talked
thought you got it.
No, I haven't seen one in like 3 years. So
never mind. We'll talk about that later. Go ahead.
Yeah, we talk about it later. But so I want this card in the worst way. It was put out. It was from the Man Who Fell to Earth set from 2015. It was put out by a UK-based company called Unstoppable Cards. I don't think they did any other as sets. There's 100 autographs. There's 2 different ones numbered to 50, and they were case hits. I could have bought one for $300, but of course he dies, and then boom, they're gone. And I have to like prepare myself that when that card hits the market, that specific card, I have to jump and pony up a pretty good chunk of money for it. I already know that it's going to be multiple thousands of dollars to find one. And
Would you have to dip into your collection to probably offset that cost by trading away or selling other stuff?
yeah,
I'm sure you'd probably be willing to do that, I bet.
I would be. And I had pieces like you saw me moving some autographs, like my Hogan autograph and my Flair autograph and stuff like that. You know, I bought those just to have them, just because I looked at my wall and I'm like, you know, I wasn't really ever the biggest Hogan fan, but I didn't have a Hogan autograph. And honestly, that Chrome card, I bought it on a $75 buy it now. I snatched it up and I can't believe the guy sent it.
Yeah, I remember that.
like,
and that's the crazy part about all of this is like we all have those cards on our list that we're not going to pass up, right? And
Mhm.
like this, and like, and you mentioned like dipping into funds, like yeah, like I had to sell or trade, if you will, like 11 101s to get the funds to cover the black. So like,
I mean,
you've
been on your Becky stuff. You've been on a tear lately. I mean, Paul and I from the price guy were talking about, man, Adam is probably.
I got another one.
We don't want to know what he spent in the last month.
Yeah, it's a lot, and it's a lot.
Thank you, Panini.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, but there's cards on that list that we all just are being like, if this thing ever pops up, like it doesn't matter what it costs. And I said that for a couple of the superfractors. Thankfully, they popped up a lot cheaper than I would have paid, but that's not always the case. And they came up with people who were very easy to deal with. Like that's the other unknown factor here is like you get somebody who's just either brand spanking new, or they just don't know what they're doing, or they're, you know, this eBay is the world's biggest card museum. Like those are the worst people to deal with. And I've dealt with them on cards. Thankfully, the ones on my list that have popped up, they haven't been with those people. And I couldn't be more excited that was the case.
No lemons with your deal.
Yeah, right. Exactly. The poor lemons. But the situation though, is like, there are cards on every list that's like, cost is no object. And like, if I have to move stuff to get it, it's like, I'll do it because it's that important of a card. And I'm sure we have a spreadsheet or we have something in our computers that say like, these are the 1 or 2 cards that if these pop up, I'm dropping everything. So.
Yeah, I think high on my list is a stupid Loomis Galactic card. That's all I'm looking for.
Those are tough, man.
And
it took me months to find a Becky. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be looking for that forever.
But to go to Adam's point, you know, who's not to say the guy who pulls the Macho Man Select 101, and there's 2 of them, by the way, Jamie.
Yeah.
No, there's 2 of them. Because there's a black flash and a black. So really, the odds of getting a complete rainbow are probably 0.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
The fact that those 2 cards, and this goes for anybody collecting anybody. I mean, does The Rock have a card in every 100 card set? Does he have 4 cards?
Yeah,
he did. Yeah,
he does.
So you're talking 8 101s just for The Rock. 8.
Yeah.
So the odds of you, first off, finding those cards is,
especially the retail ones.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost next to nothing, and then acquiring both of them is even more difficult. But who's not to say the guy who buys a blaster off the shelf and pulls the Macho Man 101, lists it for $25,000, and says, you know what, I've got $32 into this, and I am perfectly okay sitting on it.
Yeah. Yep, it's happened. Yeah. Happened more times than you can count. Yeah, it's like, it's crazy. Or even worse, what if a kid buys that blaster off the shelf, pulls the 101 because he's opening it in the car with his cake pop from Starbucks. His mom is like, Mom, look at all these wrestling cards, and it gets thrown in the bottom of the car and just sits there for 10 years. Like you never know what happens with some of this stuff.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so
true.
And
especially like if they know there's people like me out there who want it, they're gonna have like a high price on it.
You know
what I mean?
My username is Macho Madness.
Well, when you people are super collectors and people tend to keep buying like those things, obviously sellers make note of that, so we know that, and they're going to start marking accordingly.
Yeah, things kind of happen in like bunches too, because I bought the Concourse gold, and then the next day there was another gold, and then I told Ryan there was a third one that popped up like a second later, and they both sold like pretty fast. I think Ryan got one, and then there was like another one listed too. So it seems like it's almost like they don't want to be the first one to list or something.
Absolutely.
They don't want to like undercut themselves, which I mean, I guess I get, but yeah, it was just so weird.
Even for me with Loomis stuff, someone sent me a message. I was watching a tie-dye Loomis card that was up there, And it was $200, whatever it was, something outrageous. And then someone on Twitter messaged me, go, hey, have you seen this? I said, yes, I'm currently watching it. Within 15 minutes, he sent me another DM, said, oh, here's another one. Another couple minutes later, oh, here's another one. Another couple minutes, and within like a half an hour, there were 5 of the 25 listed.
Another one. Another one.
Yeah.
Another one.
Another one, exactly. And so then I watched them all. Kind of, I got outbid on a few, and then another one. Just by the time this hits, I've already revealed it. But I picked up the number 25 at 25 for half the price that everybody else was selling them for.
Oh,
Well,
nice.
That's
these
nice.
sellers, they cut their own throats because, like, I was watching. I mean, it's not a excuse me, it's not a bid card. It was the red select out of 249 Macho Man. I bid 12, got outbid. One sold 2 hours later. I bid 12, got outbid, and I got the third one for 6.
That's exactly what happened to me.
Cool. Keep on listing in bunches, guys. Cheers.
I was bidding. I was bidding $45-$50 for a tie dice like that. Kept getting outbid, and then finally I picked up that number 25 at 25 for $31.
and that's the real problem, is that it's a market, right? So like things are driven by supply and demand, and if there's no supply and a ton of demand, like you were saying, with somebody ever found out that there was a Macho Man Superfractor from that 2006 Heritage and everybody wants it, they post it up, there's going to be a ton of interest. But if there's one of these tie dyes where everybody was seeing how much the tie dyes were selling for, so anybody who pulled one was listing them and listing them and listing them and listing them because there was so much perceived demand, it's going to drive the price down overall, because there's just not enough people in the WWE market right now to support all of this supply, right? And that was always the major issue with Prism, and I called it out immediately, was that people were trying to list in auction style listings in 10,000 card clips. And you're just like, there's just not enough people in the market to support that. So why are you shooting yourself in the foot? Because you perceive that this is the only time you're going to be able to sell it, literally kneecapping yourself with all of this stuff. So when there's a mass sort of listing, or if there's a mass sort of desire, it affects the card value one way or the other, right? And and I've run into that obviously a million times with a million different cards, not just wrestling, but it's really unfortunate that there isn't more of an understanding of how to perform the true economic evaluation of some of these cards, because I feel like, look at what's going to happen with the Mickey Mantle stuff. Like, that card sells for $12.5 million. All of a sudden, every single person on this planet that has one of those cards, guess how many are going to be in Golden's next auction? Guess how many of those are going to be in Heritage's next auction? Like the Jordan that we always talk about, Ryan, like all of that stuff, one of them sold for 968,000 or whatever it was back at the height of all this. And then everybody with those cards listed in the next 5 auctions, and the price went just right through the floor because there's just not enough demand.
Right. Well, but you're talking about also a card that's multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, true.
And during COVID, when like half the world was
right,
too.
exactly.
So
yeah,
you take a buying population, and 1% can afford this stuff. I'm never gonna, unless I get into severe financial dire straits, I am never gonna sell that Jordan card. I am never gonna sell it because I will never own it again. It's not something I can sell.
It's a good point.
Okay, so let's say I sell it for $200,000, right? And after I pay the government, they're they're 40%.
Yeah.
Hey, Uncle Sam. Yeah.
I've talked to my tax guy. He's like, you're going to lose 40% of this card whenever you sell it. So you know what? I'd rather just keep it. I like being one of the few that says, I have this.
Yeah.
I have this. I bought it raw. I graded it myself.
That's amazing, by the way.
It's an insane story.
Yeah, that is amazing.
I'll tell you the story when we have more time, because the story is absolutely insane.
It's one of the craziest stories I've ever heard.
I love that story.
Jamie, you like the only guy that listen to the story?
Well, I know you got it off the seller at the show, right? And you like graded it right then and there.
All right. Do we have time? Because I'll tell it like in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm at the 2018 National in, I think it was Cleveland. And I told my buddy, George, who I've been friends with for like 30 years, I said, I really want to pick up a Jordan rookie, but I want to pick one upgraded. I looked at like a PSA 8. At the time, a PSA 8 was like $1,800. And I had one in a showcase. I was going to go back and buy it. And my buddy George is from Pittsburgh. I lived near Pittsburgh. I went to high school in Pittsburgh, and I used to set up at a flea market. So I knew a lot of the guys who were walking around that show because it's in Cleveland. It's right down the street. So he says to me, he goes, "Hey, Glenn's here." And I hadn't seen Glenn. I was living in Arizona at the time. I hadn't seen Glenn for probably 20 or 30 years. And Glenn's significantly older. I think he was probably in his like late 70s, maybe 80s at this point. And I'd always heard the urban legends that Glenn has all this 86 Fleer basketball in his attic, and he just opened it and put it in a box and forgot about it. And whenever he makes those cards available, George's like, "I'll let you know." And so he goes, "Hey, Glenn is here and he's got 2 of his Jordans." I'm like, "Well, shit, let's go." So we find, and this is back in 2018 when the show was nowhere near as busy as it is now. I mean, this was 2018, 2019, there was no show in 20. So 18 and 19, I mean, free roam, plenty of space. So I find Glenn and I'm like, and I remembered him. I think he kind of remembered me. And I'm like, "Hey, here you have some Jordans to sell." He's like, "Yeah." So he pulls from his shirt pocket, he pulls out 2 of the yellowest top loaders I have ever seen. Like just like old air, maybe cigarettes. I don't know. They didn't smell like cigarettes, but just kind of that yellow. He pulls them out and he hands them to me. And I'm like, no sleeves, by the way, which makes it even crazier that this card graded a 10.
Oh yeah.
So I look at the first one and it's nice. And hindsight's always 20/20. I should have bought them both. But at the time, $1,000 was what they were going for. $1,000 raw is what a Jordan rookie was going for. And honestly, I looked at these cards and I'm like, these are way too clean. They're way too clean. And I need to keep tabs on this guy in case they come back fake because I don't, I'm going to take it to PSA. So the first one's nice. And I'll get the second one. The second one is cherry. Jamie, I'm telling you, this is one of the best looking Jordan rookies you'll ever see. So at the time, we're in the aisle doing this deal, and all the dealers are starting to notice that we're looking at Jordan rookies. So they're like, "Hey, when he's done, I want the other one. Hey, I want the other one. Come talk to me." And I'm like, "Well, I got to get this deal done because if I don't, someone's going to come in and say, 'Hey, I'll give you $3,000 for both,' and I'm SOL."
Mhm.
So I look, okay, I want this one. How much you want for it? I want $1,000. Okay, cool. How do you want to get paid? Cash. I don't have $1,000 cash. How did you take PayPal? Exact words. I don't do no internet. I don't do no internet. I don't do no eBay. And you know what? The older population, they don't do that stuff. They still have their notebooks from 20 years ago that they're writing their lists on and checking stuff off.
Yeah.
So I go, "Okay, do you know anybody here that I can send the money to?" He's like, "Well, my son's here. Son's like my age." So his son comes over. I say, "Your dad wants to," he goes, "Okay." So I send him the money. I walk 300 yards to my left. I paid $150 to get it back in the 6 hours. So at the end of the show, they send me the email. It comes back at 10. At the time, a 10 was 20 grand, right?
Jeez.
Hold on a second. He's like texting me as this deal goes down. He says, "I think this is fake. I think this is fake." And he gets it back. He's like, "You're not going to believe this. It came back at 10." And I'm just like, holy shit, what just happened?
So I sprint, and I am a big man. If you've never met me, I'm 6'1", I'm 270, but I'm not a sloppy 270. Like I got a little bit here and there, but I'm a pretty thick dude, and I am just motoring across this show floor. I like a 270 Barry Sanders. I run up to PSA, and they're like, "Well, it's not ready yet. They're finalizing it." And so I was talking to this guy who was waiting for his stuff, and we had been talking when I was in the line before, and he said the only thing you don't want is for them to come out and ask to talk to you on the side. If that means that they made a mistake, they prematurely emailed you, and they're busting it down to a 9. And I'm like, "Oh shit, that sucks." So they come out and they go, "Schear," and I go, "Yeah." They go, "We need to talk to you." I go, "Ah." But a 9's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool, right? So I walk
$1,000, yeah.
and I walk around, and I had never graded with PSA. I was not aware that they gouge you for more money when they make your card more valuable. So she
I hate
says,
that.
she goes, "Here's your card. Congratulations. The fee is now $900. And I'm like, "What?" She goes, "We've already charged your card. Just sign here." I'm like, "Well, shit. All right." So I sign off on it. And I think now the fee for a 10 has got to be like $5 or $6 grand.
At least.
Yeah, if not more. I mean, Yeah, so that's the story how I got the card.
Best $1,900 you ever spent, I think.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm still down on it.
Yep.
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
negative,
We'd all like to be down on
Yeah.
that position, trust me.
it's a negative asset.
Did you
So I know
show
it's
the
tough.
seller? Did you show that older guy that,
Oh,
you know, came in?
it got back to him.
It got,
And I was
it got ugly,
talking to-
right?
It did get ugly. My friend,
Really?
my
Okay.
friend of 30 years, we had a falling out over it, and we have not
Wow.
spoken since.
Jeez.
Wow. Okay.
And you know, I think that he really wanted me to sell it there and give him a cut. And I needed time to process what I had, because I had never held a card or owned a card that expensive before. So I was like, let me just get home and think about it. And I want to make my right move, you know. And I ended up just sitting on it, and then it exploded. And honestly, if I had sold it, I probably would have given him a cut, but he sent me a long email, and it was not
True
nice.
True colors came out from that card.
It's
Yeah,
just,
green.
yeah,
Yep.
it's just really, I mean, it sucks. It is what it is. But I have that card, and like I said, I'm never gonna sell it unless like my kid needs like a cancer operation or something that I can't pay for. It's kind of like my break glass in case of emergency card.
Yeah.
You know, it's always nice to have it, because I can, and I don't like him, but I can call Ken Golden and be like, hey, Ken, get me 190 grand for this card. And he'd have somebody like that.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'd have a check within 3 days. So,
But that's the thing, is like we all have those things that we know if we really need the money that we can always just sort of like break that glass. I mean, Jamie's collection of WCW autographs is probably a couple of glasses to break, but you know, it's like, but yeah, you know,
Yeah,
it's
a few.
just one of those things that you have to have those assets available, because you never know what's going to happen, right?
Mhm. Right. Yeah.
Moving on to buying stuff, because we're talking about buying things right now. So yeah, let's when do you guys feel that buying now the better way to go than waiting? Because we all know that you know, we wait for things, the prices usually come down. The honeymoon time frame is always like the time we're going to spend the most money. So you know, we wait a little longer, we could probably get a better deal. But when is it okay to like buy it right then?
I'd say for me, but like I said, I bought the first gold Concourse Macho. If it's only out of like 10 or 5, I mean, I know they're probably going to pop up again. I mean, you know, case in point, 2 more popped up right after that. But generally, if it's like a low number, like I said this before, I have zero like patience. I mean, I've said that before. So if it's it's up there, yeah, if it's up there and it's out of 10, if it's out of 5, I mean, I'm gonna buy. I mean, even probably out of 25, it's probably gonna pop up again. But I hate procrastinating, I guess, as you could say. So if it's there, yeah, I'm gonna go after it right away.
Does that typically break your normal rules of buying?
No, that seems to be
Jamie has no
that
rules.
seems to be the theme.
That
That
is
seems to be
the
the
rule.
theme. Yeah, that seems to be the theme right now. If it pops up there and it's like the first one, yeah, I'm gonna take a shot at it probably.
Yeah, see, like, and you guys are in kind of a different position. I mean, well, no, I guess you're kind of in a similar position, but with me, I'm usually going up against people that have significantly more funds than I do. I mean, one of the other Becky collectors who you think my collection is crazy, like you should see his. Like, I'm not even the top Becky collector there is, and I've said that a couple of times. And for those types of deals, speed is everything, right? Because the second he gets there, he has triple the budget that any of us have. And he can literally posts on Facebook, whatever Adam is offering, I will offer $50 to $100 more. Like,
Wow, you know, you
he
made
literally
it, man.
posts that word for word. Like, you've
Yeah.
seen it on some of those posts, and it's like, now here's where I will get to the community here, I think in a little bit,
Yeah.
but like, here is where the community aspect of it is really a huge help, because over the last probably 6 to 12 months, especially as I've become more prominent on Instagram, like there's a lot of crowdsourcing of, hey, this just popped up, or hey, this just popped up, like, or people coming to me saying, I just pulled this. So it then becomes like, they know I'm a huge collector. They know that my collection is what it is because they're contacting me through the place that I show it off. Like, so they know that they can gouge me, and I'll probably pay it because I'm an idiot and impatient. And like,
Yep.
I mean, let's be fair here.
Ryan's
Yeah,
over there
so-
going like, yes, good assessment, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, he knows. So like, I think the challenge is then, how do you temper a lot of that? And I can't wait, because if I let a rare, like higher numbered stuff, like it's different, but like rare stuff, like if I let it sit, it's gone. Like one of the other Becky collectors will pick it up, and therefore but then they get lucky because the next one we're not competing, so it goes like half the price, right? So
Interesting.
Yeah, they
Brian?
said when you're selling all, like, you just need two guys to go back and forth.
I ran into that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I ran into that last week. Yep.
Well, and I think that if you look at some of the rarer Macho Man stuff over the last probably year or so, I bet you it's either Jamie or I buying it the majority of the time.
Oh yeah,
And
probably.
so, if Jamie's willing to jump first and he wants to jump, and you know what, sometimes it's going to work out, sometimes it's not. He may get a card for $100 and I got to pay 160. He may get a card for 200 and I paid 150. It honestly, it all evens out in the end.
Yeah.
But you really, I mean, there's a fine balance between striking while the iron's hot and everybody's opening stuff, and then being like, when I'm looking for like the 2016 Topps Now Then Forever Gold Macho Man base out of 10, which never shows up. Like
Those are tough. Yeah.
that flagship top stuff. Like I don't know, Jamie, if you dabble too much in that, if you started going back that far.
I've been doing a lot of the like tribute stuff that they did for him. It's got like 40 cards, and
and it's funny because I bought the second gold. I paid $300 for it, and I'm like, I just saw 3 of these in 10 minutes, and I only paid like 55 for this Topps gold out of 10, or maybe 75. And that card is infinitely harder. Not only is it harder to pull, but now that it's 5, 6, 7 years old, it's infinitely harder to find. And so
yeah, that's come up on Twitter a lot. I wish it was that logical, but we all know that the way that this market works is never logical.
Yeah, I mean, but you're right. I mean, there's cards I've been looking for that 3 of them I've looked for 3 or 4 years, and 3 of them pop up within a week of each other.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, I mean, because right now we're in the season of select. Everybody's opening it. Everybody's going to continue to open it. It's a great value. One of the things I look at when I buy a card is I say, okay, how much is a box? A box is $200. Let's just say.
I do the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So a box is $200. That Macho Man card is $300. If I go to a store and I buy a box and a half, if I spend $300 on packs, am I going to pull that card? Probably not. Probably not. What I am.
It's a great way of looking at it.
That is, yeah. I never thought of that.
But that's once you get over but I do all my pack thrills on ePack. I mean, I open a lot on ePack.
Yeah, you've really dove in head first on that stuff, and it's but like you're right, because like I remember you used to rip contenders like it was water, right? Like you go through a case and it's like you want to hang yourself. Exactly.
Oh wow.
And
my DeAnthony Thomas autographed plate.
Right,
I got $18 for.
Right.
I mean, in 2018, I spent tens of thousands of dollars on wax.
Me too.
Like, that was my forgive the comment, but that was my come to Jesus year.
Yeah, well,
it was a lot.
I did my packs.
Hope your wife never watches any of these, but go ahead.
Yeah, seriously.
She's fine.
No, see, like the thing
as he looks over his shoulder.
But see, the thing with that. The thing with that is though, like if you think about it from that perspective, like I ripped I think 5 boxes of select like so far, and like and I haven't touched Prism. Like I didn't rip a single pack of Prism except for that one with Cherry on opening day. But I literally did not rip any of the Panini wax because the singles I knew were going to be so expensive. But to that point, Ryan, like you go in and I ripped 5 boxes, which was an extreme amount of money. Like that was like $1,000, right? So yeah. So I didn't spend that much to acquire 95% of the Becky cards that I bought, right? So if I had bought 5 boxes, I'm already underwater for what I would have spent on that one single that I'm, hyperventilating about, right? Like the most expensive card I bought in Select is still cheaper than a case. So like normally I rip a case of this stuff. Every wrestling product that comes out, with the exception of the Panini stuff, like I haven't, but every top stuff I would rip a case. And like the cost of a case of Select is more than I spent on any of the Becky cards that I've acquired so far. And I've acquired the best Becky cards that exist in this product.
Right. Now, Jamie, do you rip wax?
Yeah, I did rip a lot. Well, I shouldn't say a lot, but I did rip a few boxes of the Prism. which I pretty much lost on all of it.
We all
Yeah, and
did.
then select, I just happened to rip the blasters I ordered online from Target, and I pulled that Brock Elephant ringside.
Nice.
So
Insane,
it's
dude.
yeah. So it's just, like, and that's probably the best thing I've ever pulled. So, and it's, rare that stuff like that's gonna happen. So, but yeah, I was just sitting there going through them, and yeah, I couldn't believe it. So
I've become like this wax collector now. Like I've never in my life have ever just saved wax.
No, I couldn't do it.
But I've got
Never. I could never do it.
behind
I
the
Never.
couldn't
green screen
stare
right
at it
here.
every day.
Yeah, behind the green screen right here is on the top shelf back up there somewhere. It's just boxes of the last 2 years of stuff that I just, my LCS just gives to me as payment for stuff. And I just like,
Wouldn't
I'll
even
leave
make it past the car ride.
Car rips, yeah.
I've been saying, I post, if you guys saw my social media, I posted like to rip or not to rip with a select box like that. It's still
Oh, I
sitting
was
back
all
here.
for it.
I haven't even opened it yet. It's still sitting behind.
Yeah, I was all
Yeah,
for
and
it.
I think like, and that's where a lot of this stuff is changing dramatically, because like you see these people who have seen that the cost of wax, at least for the mainstream hobby, doesn't go down, right? Like it goes up exponentially, especially as you look at some of the low cost products that have now, like the Panini World Cup and the UFC stuff that Ryan had a lot of success with. Like all of those things are now infinitely more expensive. So the cost of opening the box outweighs anything that you could possibly pull. So it's like, why not just sit on it? And I know people that have entire rooms filled with cases and cases of product because they know that the wax doesn't go down, especially for these high in demand products.
Well, I mean, how many times have we discussed, Adam, you and I, about wax, where it's like
Yeah.
the best card you can pull out of this box is $2,000, right? So for instance, The Walking Dead, the TV show, they came out with a set for season 1, and I got a case for like $720. I think it was $60 a box, 12 box case. And I did a master set and blah, blah, blah. Those boxes, once that show took off, those boxes skyrocketed like $600 a box. The best autograph that you could get out of them was the Norman Reedus autograph, and it was like $250. It was the best card you could get out of a $600 box was a $250 card.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah, there's unless you get one of like they took the sheriff's patch from one of Rick's uniforms and cut them up into 18 pieces. But even and the company Cryptozoic, who made that card, they kept a running tab on their website of the ones that have been redeemed. So I know that like 13 of the 18 have been claimed, and with only 5 left, the boxes were still $500-600. There's no reason to open it. There's no reason to open. And I can't tell you how many times years ago, I mean, this must be what a degenerate gambler felt like.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm sitting at a stoplight on the way home from the card shop, and it kind of like washes over you. Like you look at the white box, the 2-row shoebox, and you go, why did I do that?
What did I just do? Yeah.
It's
crazy. And like, even look,
but it's such a sad feeling. It's just, it's really sad, and it's awful. And I really hated to spend like $1,000 and then have to sell the cool stuff I got to recoup the money I spent. I should have bought the card, so that's where I'm at kind of.
And then like you look at Undisputed. So like like going back to WWE, like Undisputed boxes have become exceptionally rare, but the cards in those boxes are not that expensive. Like you look at like 2015, 2016 Undisputed. Let's use 2016 because the 2015 stuff, the base stuff still sells a lot. Like 2016, there's probably not a single card in that entire set that is still left on the market that will cover the cost of that box. And it's just like the boxes are still like $600-700. Like even the more recent Undisputed stuff like started at $320 and went up from there because people ripped through that product so much. There's a ton of group breaks on Facebook and all these other things. Like that is the most popular group break product when it comes out because it's a hit per pack. But like the boxes got up to like $600-700. There's not a single card that you're going to pull out of that box unless you luck out and hit some crazy red that is going to be worth that amount of money. And it's just better just to sit on the wax. Some guy had like a closet full of Undisputed boxes. One of the other major Undisputed collectors like paid him 6 figures for that closet. Like it's insane.
Wow.
So I'll just sit on my undisputed boxes that I have behind here too then. I'll just sit
Yeah,
on those.
those are
Good idea,
hard to
yeah.
find. Those are hard to find stuff because there's so little. There's like probably 2,000 cases of it available, if that.
It's also year in and year out one of the best design sets
Yeah,
that's ever been made. I mean,
exceptionally popular.
yeah,
I
the
mean, I cracked
pictures-
open very few of it. I think you needed a Becky car. I sent you one, I think, Adam, a Becky red or something
Yeah,
like
I was
that.
really happy you did because that's hard to find.
Yeah. I'm like, just take it, man. You'll enjoy it. So, yeah, we went into the singles versus boxes, so we covered that, which is great. But I also want to talk about influences on our hobbies like that, especially coming out a little bit more personal, like personal influences, family, bills, things like that. How does that affect your buying? Do you just take a pause if you have too many bills? I mean, do you have a separate fund that you guys go and use to fund your card collection, and your personal stuff doesn't matter at all?
Yeah,
Anyone?
generally I have like a separate eBay account. And so like everything I sell and everything will go in there. Occasionally I'll dip into the joint, account with the wife, but it's not that much. And I tell her, I'm like, hey, just so you know, I'm taking this out or whatever. So
Nice that
but
she's
yeah.
so understanding.
Yeah. Right. I think the one time I mean I might have taken like I said I'm gonna take out $1,000. I'm gonna pay it right back. But just so you are aware, that'll be gone in for a few days. And she was like, okay.
Did
And
she
then I paid
charge
it
you,
back, but still.
she charged you VIG?
Yeah.
Good.
But yeah, generally it's like whatever I sell or things like that goes into like a separate account. So it's pretty much you're playing with your own money kind of thing. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's what I do.
Adam.
Yeah, I don't do that. Like, yeah, no, it's
He's
like
literally playing with house money.
right. No, yeah, house money, like my house is more money. Like the problem is like when the big stuff comes up, like you've got to bend the rules and then you just try and get net zero, right? So like as long as you end up net zero, I consider it a win, but that's getting fewer and far between these days because things are so expensive.
It's predominantly why I stopped collecting the way I collected. I mean, I was a super collector all through the 90s into the early 2000s. When Topps took over, I attempted and went after. It's why I have so much of the first two or three releases they put out, which was Heritage Chrome, Heritage 2. And I just I tapped out. I'm like, I'm dipping into funds that I really don't have. And I just can't do this anymore. It's affecting other things in my life, and it becomes a problem. Like it's almost equivalent to gambling and being a gambler. And
slippery slope.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
it is. And so I stepped away. I didn't collect anymore. I just stopped. And that's kind of where you saw less and less stuff being done with WTC for a while in the mid 2010s to 2014. I just couldn't do it anymore. I had no interest anymore. I burned myself out. I created too many financial problems that way. And I said, I'm just stepping away. So when I got back into it, becoming a player collector for the first time, it let me to have, which nowadays isn't much further from what I was doing back then anyways, as far as expenses go, but I'm having more fun. I'm able to balance myself better, and I do keep a separate fund just for that. So it's hard.
There are two really problematic behaviors that exist across collecting. One of them is obsessive compulsive disorder, which I think is a direct correlation to a lot of the reasons like people collect the way that they do.
Yep.
And the second is addiction, right? Like the same factors that apply to drug addiction and alcohol addiction have a major gambling addiction, especially have a major influence in the way that people exist within this hobby. And the longer that you are in this hobby, the more that those things, the obsessive compulsive actions of a collector versus the addictive actions of an addict are become very clear. I wrote an article about it like probably 4 or 5 years ago, just comparing some of the things that collecting minds tend to gravitate towards and why the classification of cards, the excessive rules, like all of those things that really apply have really clear denotations to mental health disorders. And it's really interesting to see the way people function, especially the hardcore, like super collectors, the people that go for sets, like the way that they approach their collections tend to mirror a lot of those challenging aspects of both addiction and obsessive compulsive disorder, hoarding, stuff like that. It's really crazy how many parallels are drawn between those two.
But if I had to choose between being a drug addict or a card addict, I think I'll just take.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna say with the
Good
cards,
thing is,
yeah.
it doesn't cause any health problems. That's a big difference.
To your point,
Well-
Adam, I was just gonna say it's like you get one big card and then you're like, all right, well, what's next? I need, the next big card
Gotta
and the
top
next
it,
big
yeah.
card.
Yep.
Yeah. So it, like you said, it's almost like you're an addict in a way.
Well, the pursuit is always better than getting the item.
Of course.
Right. I get
The chase, man. The chase is always better than the win.
Yeah.
Always.
Mhm.
And then
Always.
you hit it, you got your card, and you look at it and you go, cool. What's next?
Yeah.
And you go,
Put it in
cool.
the old box and then, yeah, all right, let's go
It
back
never-
on eBay.
It never
Let's see.
ends. And that's
Yeah.
why you got to have some boundaries. And I'm going to get real with you guys. I mean, 2018 was a bad year for me financially because I swear if my card shop owner had been like, I've got bass fishing cards, I'd have been like, let's do a case. I mean, it got to that point where I really had to look inside myself and be like, I got 2 little girls. I want them to have everything they want. I want them to experience everything they can. And, my wife would be like, hey, let's take a vacation. I'd be like, oh, not right now. I'd have to make excuses. I'm being honest with you guys. And with the audience, because this is something that people really need to look out for. It's very easy. It's very easy to fall into this lake. It's very easy because
It's a
I
deep
remember,
lake.
Yep.
yeah. And I remember being at the shop with a buddy of mine, and he was opening, I forget what it was, but it was like a 1-pack, $200, just boom, bam, boom, boom, bam, boom, and he looked at me and he goes, it's got to get better. And I'm like, does it?
That's a gambling fallacy, man. It's
Really is.
the sunk funds fallacy, right? Is that if I keep sinking the funds into this, eventually I'll hit something that's worth it. But you always think about, like, gamblers don't remember their biggest wins. They only remember their biggest losses. And it's because there's so many more losses. And I mean, we've all been there. I think that you mentioned it was a bad year. I mean, there are multiple bad years that I've had, right? And I think that that's always the challenge is I said to somebody on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, I was like, I remember I would never pay more than $100 for a wrestling card. I just wouldn't. It was just there's no way I can do this. But then once you do it and you get the exposure to how awesome those cards are, they're above $100, then it's I'm never going to pay $500 for a wrestling card. Boom, you pay $500. And nah, I'm never gonna pay $1,000. And then you literally have to keep going and going and going and going. Now I don't even get out of bed in the morning unless it's a $500 card, and that's a crazy situation to be in, right? And it's you should never expect things to continue down that path when that things are only going to get more expensive. There's only going to be more competition. There's always going to be more cards to collect because that's the game, right? That's the reason why card companies stayed in business, even though there was a nationwide pandemic that took away disposable funds from literally every American and internationally. It survived 2008. It survived the 90s when everything was printed in the millions, right? So there's a reason why those things are universal recession-proof businesses, is because it's an addiction. It is feeding on people's emotions that are tied to these massive mental health problems. Not saying that everybody has, that's not what I'm implying. But I'm saying I'm saying that there are aspects of our personalities that lend itself better to these situations and will continue to have issues unless you address it like Ryan has had to do, and I've had to do, and I'm sure everybody who's listening has had to do at one point or another, and just saying I can't keep going like this. And that's why I got out of football cards. That's why I got out of baseball cards. That's why I got out of basketball cards, because it wasn't fun anymore. You go to the card shop and you dread how you were going to walk out of it.
I don't even go anymore. I don't even go to a card shop anymore. I know I'm not going to pay the wax prices that they have. 2, they're not going to have the singles I want because eBay is the world's largest card show.
Right, exactly.
It really is. It's the world's, they say if you can't find it, the National doesn't exist. That's not entirely true. And I'm a big proponent of the National. I really like it. I think you should go at least once in your life.
Absolutely.
If you can't find it on eBay in a year, it's tough. That's tough. It's just the way.
Needle in a haystack, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, bills come first, obviously. I got, mortgage. I got outside activities with the kids. I've got water and power and a car payment and everything else. And that stuff all has to come first before I even, 50 bucks here, 100 bucks there, not a big deal for me. That's not a big deal. I'll do that. But if you're talking about, like when Jamie told me about the gold Macho Man, I had just bought the tie dye for 200 bucks. And I was like, oh, Jamie.
Yeah.
I thought I was helping you.
I gotta keep up with Jamie.
It's funny because like when I started this, like I was making a fifth of what I'm making right now. So as I've progressed in my career, I've had a lot more funds to play with.
That's a good
and
point.
And
Yeah.
that's like I just had my 40th birthday a couple of last month, right? And like if you had told me where I would be at 40 versus what I was feeling at 25 and 26, when I really got back into cards, like my income has considerably increased because my job has increased and the money that I make in that job has increased. So it's given me more leeway to play with these things and not have to worry as much about the $50 or $100 cards. Because when you are making a constant living for yourself and you have, I have 4 kids. You can see them on the wall behind me. I have 4 kids. I have one whose baseball habits are like $3,000 a year. And like and that's just one of the 4 kids. We just got back from a trip to Branson, which cost an insane amount of money.
Yeah.
And like those things absolutely come first. But now that I have the career that I have, I've been able to supplement, and I have a collection with equity that I can trade to afford the things that I want to afford. So it becomes like this really interesting environment and ecosystem that collectors tend to operate within because they have these assets they can move to gain more equity in their collections, right?
And I think Jamie is the ultimate example of that.
Yeah.
So I don't begrudge anybody for what they want to collect unless you're collecting Macho Man. Then I
right, exactly.
But no, but I mean we've all done, I know Jamie, you got kind of a little some people shit on you about the WCW set, about you selling cards out of that set to
and then I got them back. I mean, I
right.
guess like I had a plan. I mean, it's not like I like advertised it or anything, but
right. But if you need to move a couple to get where you want to be, and then they come up every few weeks or a few months and you can get them back.
And that was the thinking.
I don't listen to how anybody thinks I should collect. It's not their money, it's my money.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what I want to get. My next point there was about influencers out there, whether they're going to be people within our own hobby that are sort of known within the hobby for their own lanes, whatever they, or even having, or even just having like social media influencers. I mean, do you guys take anything away from these kinds of people on your pursuits when you're hunting stuff? Is there anything you take from them, or you just say, you know what, the hell with you guys?
I think the question is, do they take stuff away from us? Like, honestly, like there's like, we're in a lane with WWE that is basically a trailblazing path. And like, there are people I don't get along with. There's a lot of them. And I've made a lot of enemies. Yeah, exactly. And I've made a lot of enemies over the years because of the way that my site was written and stuff like that. But like, the social media influencers now within the hobby don't really play in this pond. And like, that's the real question here is like, are they taking hints from the way that the collectors and the super collectors and all these other things are really driving towards a goal versus are they trying to set the path? Because I think with wrestling, it was not them setting the path. It was, holy shit, this is going for this, this is going for this, this is going for this. I need to go this, and this the same way. And then it just sort of took off from there because they had so much resonance within their messaging and so many people saw what they were doing. So I think it was kind of like, I've mentioned this on a lot of podcasts that, and including some that we've done. I think that there's a certain group of individuals who have set their own path, whether that's Jamie and the WCW autographs or others that have gotten involved with vintage that I'm not going to mention here, like others that are experiencing a specific lane within the collection industry has driven a lot of that social media influence. And some of it has been significantly negative, like a lot of negativity around, especially as we saw the Panini launch and the licensing go that direction.
Exactly. Yeah. Which I think the market itself now, the hobby itself is kind of settled. We've all kind of gotten over the Panini explosions like that. And with all these divisions that were put in place, I think that's kind of, some things are just what they are. people being blocking here, blocking there, not speaking to this person, not speaking to that person. That's still going to exist. But I think that the overall feeling of our hobby sort of settled back down. We've all kind of got back to reality. We're not seeing any numbers going down when it comes to vintage. I mean, hell, we just had a record sale of $51,000 for a vintage wrestling card. We're not seeing numbers going down considerably in modern. We're still seeing on an average of stuff of $2,500 to $3,000 to $5,000. I mean, Paul and I do our monthly recaps. We just recorded one today talking about that. And it's like, it's still staggering to me to see a mixture of good vintage and modern stuff in there. So there's room for everybody in this.
Yeah. I think if you listen to any quote unquote influencer, you're doing it wrong. I think you need to do what you like. We have way too many people in this hobby that blindly follow these quote unquote morons. They don't know half of what they're talking about. All they do is look at market trends. I mean, most of these guys, you didn't hear about them until March of 2020 or June of 2020 or July.
We always talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not like these guys were in the 90s talking about,
Hey, wait a second. I launched this podcast in like August of 2020. What the hell?
I'm only talking about you, Tony.
Oh, great.
This was all directed at you.
But you look at these, I'm not going to name any names. I'm not going to name any names on these guys because like,
no, we're not about that doing that.
No, but a lot of these guys, all they do is look at market trends. They like Adam said, they gather their information from collectors. They put out a video saying, well, I think that this, and this, and then all the sheep, they all follow and they buy everything in sight. And if you actually follow these influencers and these investors, they're wrong 80-90% of the time, because they're taking their information from collectors. They're not looking at it as they think, okay, you know, the All-Stars are hot right now. And then, you know, they tell everybody to go buy All-Stars. But what they don't tell you is that there's like 3 guys that own 90% of the All-Stars that aren't selling them. So
well, let's take that a step further, because I think it's not just that they're doing it that way. It's that the true investors that are really making the money aren't public about it. Why would they be? They don't want to sell their sauce, right? That's how they make their money.
It's like the guy on late night TV with the dollar bills on his jacket saying, I can make you a millionaire.
Right, exactly. Like, why are you listening to these people? Yeah, these people make money.
They're all grifters. This is my opinion. They're all grifters. They're all trying to sell you something. They're all trying to get clicks. They're trying to get monetization from YouTube.
Absolutely.
And people give it to them, and they love it. And they talk about, oh, this person's so great and this person's so great. These people weren't around 2 years ago, and there's a reason for that.
So would the advice be then to take away from these kind of guys and gals, I guess, is whatever they say, I'm doing the opposite.
No, I don't think I don't think that's it. I think the thing is like the people who have made cards their living has been around since the beginning. There have been card shows since the 50s and 60s, right? So like, you have to understand, like, people make money in this hobby and have made money in this hobby enough to support their living for almost a century, right? So like, that's not new. Making your living in card shops, whatever, is not new. So making investors a dirty word is not really looking at it from the right perspective. What isn't the right perspective is having somebody tell you how to engage within the hobby. That's where the challenge is. The true people who have made money hand over fist during both the boom and before are the people that have found the edge in specific aspects and assets within the hobby that they're not sharing with anybody. Why would they? That would take away their ability to acquire more assets.
Which is kind of what Jamie's been doing. Like, he's not advertising. Like, people are giving him shit for saying, like, why would you sell the Roman Reigns card he's got, and why would you sell your WCW cards? Like, that's stupid and at a loss, or at this and that. Like, but you don't know what Jamie's doing, and he's not revealing why I'm doing these things.
Yeah, generally, if I'm like selling a lot of like if I'm selling a lot of high price stuff, it's because I have my eye on something else that's high, the price, and that I know I'm going to get those other cards back, you know, eventually. Yeah. So
I mean, there's
because you've already gained the knowledge and experience of what it took to get to those cards to begin with. Right. And so now you're moving those cards, knowing that I know what it takes to get those cards back. if I want to
Right.
get those
And it's
cards
almost
back.
to the point now where if there's a WCW like auto out there, like I get people that like all the time, like, hey, I got this up for sale. Do you want it? Like, so it's kind of like that, which I like. I mean, because you know, there could be a time
I
they're-
get
where
that too.
Yeah, they're taking
Yeah.
the legwork out for you. Like they're coming directly to you instead of having to hunt it. Those guys who have it are bringing it to you. Like this past month, we saw an Elizabeth Raw card sell for $3,000.
and I saw that. And like I was a little skeptical about that because I just bought one for like $800.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was a little skeptical about that, but I mean, I guess it was a sale's a sale, right?
That's a
So,
really good point, though. Like, how
Yeah.
many, like, it's being trustworthy with the money that's changing hands is something that the influencers will
Yeah.
never touch, right? Like,
Mhm.
they want to show the best of the best. And I mean, like, for me, it was like, as Prism was going, like, I was guilty of that too. I wanted the WWE card hobby to explode. That was my goal. I didn't really care who was getting hurt in the process.
Yeah.
But a lot of these sales that have taken place, like how many of them are, especially in a public forum, right, where you're seeing like Card Ladder now offering verified sales and all these other things, like you don't know, because this what happened with Jordan in the early 2010s was like there was a group of Jordan collectors who decided together they were just going to drive up the price of Jordans. Like they were going to sell them in between themselves, and it was going to be very public because the sales were very high, and they were absolutely successful in that because everybody saw those sales and every Jordan card exploded in value. So what they did was successful because of that. Even though they were just trading the cards in between themselves, the money probably went back and forth a number of times between the same people. And I think that's happened a lot with some of the vintage wrestling cards. I think that's happened with some of the prospect cards for baseball. I think that's happened a lot with football, especially Brady. Like, all of those things are not discussed by any of the influencers because it damages the message that they want to sell, which is everything is going up, right? They can't make money on their platform unless they show that the hobby is continuing to be on a rise. And right now, that's just not the case. So if you can't put a bet on the table and that bet wins 100x every single time, all of a sudden their platform becomes inherently worthless. So they're trying to show the things that reinforce the message that drives their monetization, to Ryan's point.
Right. And that's the thing, is that Adam makes a very good point. We don't know if this stuff's being paid for. We have no idea. We have, all these Jordans that sold for 300,000, 400,000, 500,000, 600,000. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'll make that very clear. But we don't know if they were paid for. We don't know if the 1.2 or $2.2 million for the LeBron logo man was paid for. We don't know. All we have to look at is what's being reported to us on social media or on the internet. And you know what? It's real easy for influencers to be like, oh my God, $2 million. We don't know if the deal was completed. We don't know.
Well, this leads into then the next subject here, which is building these relationships with people. Because when we start in this hobby, building our relationships with people, especially good people we know, who we're buying from, who we're selling to, and we've all had these guys in our lives where we know, like I know Adam's the right guy to send the Becky Lynch stuff. Like if I was going to sell him something, I know that's a legit transaction that happens. Like it's build these relationships. I don't have any experience outside of wrestling card collecting when it comes and non-sport. I mean, I've been in non-sport for a good 25 years, probably plus as well. But I mean, how do we compare wrestling card relationships to other relationships from like the stick and ball type stuff?
Honestly, I haven't really dealt in other sports that much. Wrestling wise, I can say it's very friendly to a certain degree. I feel like once you make one deal with somebody, it's like you keep going back, you keep you keep talking about possibly a future deal or something like that. You follow someone online, you kind of like build up relationships, things like that. Quickly going back to the influencers within our sector, it's guys like you three, it's guys like Paul, like Chuckster, Zan, it's all those guys to me that are the influencers within our hobby. So when you were talking about that before, I just wanted to go back to that real quick, where it's like, I don't really follow like the big wigs, when it comes to that stuff. Even wrestling wise, because you can tell who's really sincere about it and who's really just in it to make a buck kind of thing.
Yeah. That's a really good point, because we weren't talking about those people. Like, those people have really positive ulterior motives in delivering the content they do. They want to grow things. They want to be good people about it. They just want to show their love of the game. We're talking about like other individuals who have made their platform hundreds of thousands of people wide, right? So it's not, I wasn't that, let's be very clear about that. I love what Zan does. I love
Oh yeah,
what-
yeah.
I mean, like, that's not who we're talking about.
Right.
But kind of the relationship point, like, I think honestly the wrestling community is inherently different than anything that is offered in the stick and ball sports. Like, it's just, everybody in wrestling wants the other people to succeed, which is why I get, every time there's a big Becky card that pops up, I get 80 messages, right? And that happened last week. Literally 80 messages on Twitter, Instagram, text messages, whoever, Facebook. It's very community focused. And I love that. That's why I've stuck around as long as I have. Where in football, it's, I have to do better than all of these other people.
It's cutthroat, absolutely cutthroat.
Cutthroat. It is completely different.
Like, and it's combative, and it's really, there's, your friend will stab you in the back in a heartbeat.
Absolutely, yeah.
No doubt. Now, my question is, at what point does wrestling get like that?
That's a good question. I'm not
You
sure.
know,
I think with,
I pretty much would have thought that happened with Prism, because Prism kind of brought a lot of negativity. It really, it brought a lot of, it brought a divide of us versus them kind of mentality kind of thing. And I thought,
It did,
wow,
yeah.
is this good? Is this what it's like in other sectors, in other sports? And
Worse.
huh?
Worse?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
worse.
and so it was bad. Like, in all my years of collecting wrestling cards, I had never experienced anything like that before, where I saw that and having messages coming to me like, such and such blocked me. Why is this happening? Such and such said this about that. And that's what, are they talking about me? Because that's, I just never saw that before. It never became an issue. And now that that's kind of settled, and I think that we've kind of maybe have reestablished some relationships here with people. It's like that. Even so much as like,
maybe you have.
no,
But I think-
well, no. I mean, with other people, maybe. Well, I've always said this. I've had to play Switzerland because WTC as itself is a brand that I've been working on and building for,
Right.
over 20 years. So I can't sit here and go like, even though I have my personal, we can talk off air. I will give you my opinions about certain individuals and markets or whatever, but I'm not going to do things publicly because I got to play nice with everybody. I want to get everybody's perspective, everybody's how they collect, and everybody's viewpoints on the hobby itself. That's the whole point of me doing this to begin with. Well, that's not really true. I mean, I was killing some time during a pandemic, and who knew we're going to be doing this and coming up on our 100th episode pretty soon.
it's a great idea.
Yeah.
It's just the relationship aspects of our hobby have always been very important. It's been important to me. I've as someone who was buying in mass amounts in bulk, whether I was buying cases, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 card bulks, stuff like that. It was important for me to keep those relationships going. And it's still true to me to this day. It's like that. Now I'm a Loomis collector. So I'm like you, Adam. I'm getting, messages all the time like, hey, this tie-dye showed up, and this, this elephant print showed up. And, it's just, it's cool. And I just, I wonder how you guys interact with other collectors in that respect, especially those who are collecting the same thing you're collecting.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, well, you guys fight amongst yourselves, but I mean, like, I have relationships with all the other Becky collectors. Like, that's what's so great about the wrestling community is we talk with each other. We don't want to burn bridges because you never know who's going to try and blow you up. And I was just having a conversation with a new Becky collector about this recently, is like, talk to us, please. Don't create a bidding war when we can probably trade favors to avoid mutually assured destruction. But that doesn't happen in any other sport. And when that came, when that mentality needed to come to wrestling, it was really the first time that, well, maybe since non-sport, because I think non-sport had a really, really good community as well, that saw an explosion of value driving new personalities in that market. It's very similar here with WWE, but WWE is different in the fact that most WWE collectors only collect WWE. And so there isn't a lot of reference points. There isn't a lot of reference points outside of it, kind of to what Jamie was just saying. I don't really do a lot of other stuff, right? So when you have that lack of familiarity, I think the only difference is that with the non-sport stuff, we saw a lot of branching out. We saw a lot of people reaching into other parts of the hobby and sort of getting involved. With wrestling, it was a complete aversion to learning new stuff about the new hobby. And that created humongous problems among a number of different people who just refused to understand that the mainstream hobby was inherently different. The market was structured a completely different way. The way that Panini was viewed among those individuals was completely different than anything that they had experienced before. So when values, like Ryan was saying, a Panini card out of 10 versus a Topps card out of 10 that's much harder to get is worth probably 5x lower. Like, that didn't compute with a lot of people. I understand why that's the case, but the fact that the wrestling collectors just completely avoided learning about those things because they felt like they were being invaded is a new concept. I think that has just happened within a few new markets that exploded within 2021 and 2022.
Yeah. I mean, I know that, Jamie and I have a pretty good relationship, I'd like to think.
Yeah.
A couple weeks back, one of the VIP badges, the Macho Man badge.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I was like, I'd like to get that. And we talked over, and he basically backed off. He said, look, if you want to, go for it. And then about a day before it ended, I said, I'm just not feeling it. Go ahead. And he got it for, I think, like $10 over the opening bid.
Yeah, it was like
61.
$60 or something. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And you know what? Without that communication, I mean, we may have bid that thing up to 150, $200. It's just, it's one of those things where I'm good waiting on stuff. I'm good waiting on stuff because honestly, I'm in so many areas. There's always something with my attention on it. Always.
Right.
And the two big cards I wanted from Select was the gold and the tie-dye, and I got them both. So I'm feeling good about where I'm at. And then the ringside stuff just seems to be so much harder to find.
Yeah.
But just the concourse stuff is fine. But now I'm going to show Jamie something that no one's seen yet.
I was waiting for this. For this.
Oh, man.
So fast, you can't even talk about it.
Galactic.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yeah, that is nice. Actually, I thought I saw one up on eBay. Maybe it wasn't a Galactic though, but it was a 10. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, it is that card in a 10. The guy wants $2,000 for it.
Yeah, okay.
It's a foil card.
Oh,
But,
nice.
I was having an insomniac kind of night, and I jumped on my phone, and I don't know why people do this, but this guy listed this thing like at 11:45 at night.
I love those kind of guys.
Yeah.
Listed like 11:45 at night, and it was a 7-day auction.
Okay.
The opening bid was $200, and it said, $200 or buy it now. And I'm like, it's going to be like $1,200 or something.
Yeah.
$300.
Oh my God. That's insane.
I love those days.
When I was hitting pay, it started circling like, don't you do this.
Yeah.
Don't you do this.
This like item is out of stock or something.
Yeah.
So you have the rainbow of the base card. I got the rainbow of the mega powers.
Oh, that is awesome.
And you know what?
My God.
One day you're going to get that card, and one day I'm going to get the Galactic base card.
Right.
Hands and run to the field.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be, there's no reason to be antagonistic about stuff. There's really not.
There's times that I've like messaged me and like Drake were like we were like going after the same card, and he asked me like, hey, can you go after this? And I go after this. I said, yeah, sure. Yeah, that's fine. So yeah, so it's almost like
we all make those concessions.
Right. It's like in our sector, it's like you only see it there. It's like you guys said, in like other sports, you just don't see stuff like that happen.
The cooperation doesn't happen, and it's awesome that it happens in WWE. And it's like, because there are agreements that I like. We call them chips, right? So between the Becky collectors, like I got a chip on this guy, he's got a chip on me. I backed off a couple of two or three cards, so he owes me a card or two. Then that all comes out in the wash, as Ryan was saying. So yeah, it doesn't happen other places. I remember going head to head with one of the other Adrian Peterson collectors, who was one of my targets a while ago before all the child abuse stuff happened. And like, we would battle and just shout at each other because we were, it was nasty. It was nasty.
That's the culture.
Yeah, that's the culture. It was awful. I hated it. It was awful. But here
NFL
it's like
cards having a nasty cult. Oh, who would have thought?
yeah, but like the other Becky collectors, like we cheer for each other. Like we want the big cards to be with us. We didn't want it to be with somebody else. So as long as one of us gets it, it's a win, right? At
Right,
least that's
yeah.
what we tell ourselves.
I feel the same
You're
way.
like, I just hope it's me.
Yeah.
Well, but like, you know, like I know a zebra Macho Man popped up, and I think you picked up a ringside gold too. And I was happy for you. There's no reason
Right. Yeah.
I would sit there and go, damn it, Jamie Wallace got me again. I don't, you know, because honestly, at some point there may be a guy who's got deeper pockets than both of us combined,
Oh, I'm sure.
and he's gonna buy everything. Or
Yeah.
she's gonna buy everything. It's just,
It's gonna happen. Yeah.
it is, you know, and it's like Adam said something at the beginning of this that rings true. You can't have everything. You can't. You just cannot have everything. It doesn't work like that. It
Mhm.
doesn't work like that in life, and it doesn't work like that in cards, especially when you're
Right.
collecting players. You can't have everything. It's just the way it is. And I think if you live with that motto, I think you'll be a lot happier in your pursuit of items.
Yeah.
Just be like, look, you know what? The next time I'll get it next time. Or there's 9 more, or there's 4 more, or there's 10.
Like you said, you were content with a tie-dye and a gold, and like I got the 2 as well. So yeah, I mean, if like the green like happens to come up, we'll probably talk about it, you know. But for now, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty content as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's do you have the ringside tie-dye?
Yes. Yeah, that one
You
was
do?
just listed for auction.
Do you have one though yet?
costume.
Do you
Wait,
have
what?
one yet?
Yeah, I traded for it like a few weeks ago.
Okay, so you have the ringside tie-dye.
I have ringside tie-dye. Yeah, I'm not going.
I've got
after
carte
this.
blanche to go after this one.
You do. Yeah.
Deals
See?
are made.
This is
Deals
how
are
it
made on the
works.
show, folks.
This is how it works. Yeah.
That's great. I don't have any Dexter Loomis people who work with me. I just don't have any. So,
You're lucky.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's other guys. I know a couple of guys that had claimed like, oh, I like to PC this guy as well. So like that, I go, okay, but we've never connected. Like we've never communicated before. So I don't even know if we're actually bidding against each other. And I don't do a lot of bids. I'm on a very tight budget. So I live within my budget. For me to spend more than $30 on a card is for me, it's splurging for me. So, you know, a lot of stuff I'll get, like guys were asking for, because my guy for select is only available in ringside.
Mhm.
Right.
He's not in the retail. He's not in
That's
the first
great.
200.
That's
So-
great.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
I got
I-
all 4. I
yeah.
got all 4 plus autos, plus 2 autos and an auto relic. So and inserts. So like,
Whew.
ugh.
You know,
I-
I looked at I went through, because when I put cards in my pages, I do them by scarcity, right? So it's like 26 parallels,
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy.
including.
I'm
two
okay.
ones.
I'm okay. If this ends up being all I get for my collection from select, I'm good. Well,
Yeah.
I have the tie dye coming as well, but I'm good. I'm done. I don't have to worry about it. But I'm not going to stop the pursuit of chasing things and looking for things. And I find a good deal, I'll grab it. But you know,
The other thing is too,
that's the
is
fun of
that
it.
There's always something else around the corner.
Yep.
There's always going to be another product release that people are going to go crazy over. And you know what? Maybe that select gold is now $200 because everybody's attention is over here. You know, attention spans are fickle.
Yeah.
And,
Very.
you know, so the next shiny, the next shiny ball that comes out, people are going to be looking at that. And I'm like 50-50 on the fact that Macho Man didn't have a card in Prism. Like
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah,
I'm
what was
like,
that?
I'm kind of like, damn. I'm kind of like, cool.
but now next year it's like, here we go again, kind of thing.
It never ends.
They're never
Right.
But I think that the challenge is less about like the pursuit of completion, right? Which no one will ever achieve. But
Right.
it's more about, like, to Ryan's point, like, so we've had four sets released, I think, or 3 sets released, and a 4th that's coming like next week or whatever. So like there's going to be at least 3 more, including a high-end one with immaculate or impeccable or whatever it is that they eventually release the high-end space. And like for me, like you talked about rules at the beginning, like the chrome stuff and the select stuff, the prison stuff has always been my focus as long as I've been a collector for multiple decades. So like for me, that's what drives a lot of my big spending, is like if I see that there's a shiny card that has the chromium stuff, like especially on card autos, like I'm dropping everything. But There are other collectors who gravitate towards completely different things. And so we tend to work together to accomplish those goals in our lanes inside of the lane itself. But like to Ryan's point, like there's going to be sets, at least 6 to 8 of them a year. And the one complaint that a lot of collectors have had since the 80s when there were 4 sets is that there's really no differentiation that exists within a product to make it special. So like it used to be like you had 4 cards and they came out once every quarter, and it was easy to collect a set because there was only like a couple of cards that you needed to get from the entire run. But now with football, there's 75 products like a year. So that means that there are 10,000 cards, single cards, not runs of cards. There are 10,000 cards per player per year if you're collecting one of the premier rookies or one of the top veteran guys. So, but none of them are are very much inherently different than what came out the year before. Like there's very little that exists as the next step in evolution for cards so far. NFTs had a chance of that. Digital cards had a chance of that. EPAC really encased some of that next big thing, right? But as Fanatics takes over and as Fanatics takes into a new level with more of a focus on the D2C stuff, the direct to consumer outside of the products, whatever, like that is really the first chance that we've seen that from a wax perspective, we get to the next big thing. There's still nothing that's on the horizon that's like, well, this new type of card that's never before seen. Like even those triple logo men that drove Drake to rip $220,000 worth of flawless, those cards had been done before. Like they weren't unique to that.
Adam, I'm so jaded in the sports realm. Like people, once they started getting away from actual game used items, I checked out. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, me too. I've never
seen, you and I'm sure you guys have seen it too. All they do is make these guys hold these jerseys or hold these hats, and then they cut the NFL logo off the side of a trucker hat. They glue it on a card, and it's a $10,000. Are you serious? Like really? And people go, I got a logo man, and it's the logo from a glove, and it's like the size of a quarter, and people go crazy over this stuff. And you know what? To each his own. If that gets you riled up, that doesn't even move my dial 1 second anymore.
And I've been there. So unlike a lot of people, I've witnessed that. I've been at the NFL rookie premiere. I've seen the piles and piles of jerseys. And basically
I've been at the spring training when they do for baseball here in Arizona.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. Like they don't. So the switch away from game worn material to event or player worn material started in 2001. And it got to a point where at the last rookie premiere that I went to, which was 2015, Topps and Panini were both having players try on 40 jerseys of each color apiece for 1 second.
It's that Mark Ingram picture.
Yeah, that was actually probably worn more than any of the other jerseys in the history of the rookie premiere. I consider that a win because usually it's just put the neck hole over your head and then take it off. That's all it took to be quote unquote event worn or player worn.
That's why you got to appreciate for wrestling cards, go back to the Fleer era when they actually had dates of like this was an event used ring mat from WrestleMania 19.
Topps did that as recent as last year.
Yeah. So it was always very nice when they had that kind of stuff. I miss those days.
The Fleer wrestling stuff from the early 2000s is some of the best memorabilia cards, period. As far as actually being used, ingenuity. I mean,
steel chairs, trash cans, milk cartons, knee braces. I mean, face paint for a mask. I mean, you name it. It was just way ahead of its time.
Period.
Ahead of its time when it comes to wrestling cards. Big time. So you've already delved into it a little bit here, Adam. So like that, feelings in the market today and where we're going with, you mentioned Fanatics. We got social media interactions.
That's a whole podcast.
I mean, just quickly, like, what are your feelings today and going forward, just in a nutshell? Nothing detailed, but just in an overall nutshell.
I was just going to say it's, on like a positive note, like I said, in our small sector here, I like what everyone does, how everyone communicates online for the majority. There's certain people online that when I see they post, I know I got to look at it. I'm like intrigued to look at it. It's just, it's lot of positives that you guys have already said. The grand scheme of things is a lot of negatives going out there. And we saw the part when like Prism came out, obviously social media became very like toxic, obviously. But like you guys said, probably since around June, it's been, settled down and everything. And Select coming out, I feel like it's been total opposite of that. So
I
it's continued to go on
think
that path.
Select being as strong as it is has actually helped to put out the fire that was Prism.
Yeah,
I agree.
good point. Yep.
Agree.
Because Select, it seems to be, you watch a movie, it says this has universal praise. Like Select has universal praise. Like
Yeah,
it really,
it's definitely 97, 98 on the Rotten Tomato count.
right. And that's the thing. I mean, it's not $1,000 a box. It's relatively affordable for where the market's at. You can hit monsters. It's a fun rip, and I think that if we get more products like that, the outlook is bright. I think I'm interested to see how Impeccable does. I mean, because that's a Breakers product.
If it's Impeccable, we don't know if it's Chronicles yet. But the thing with, like, Ryan's point is spot on, right? Like, you want to like, this isn't par for the course. Select is not the way things usually go, where everybody loves it. It rarely happens. Like Prism, a lot of people loved it, but even I was the first to say that the QC problems were atrocious with that product, right? So I mean, like, Select is one of those products that I think is different in the fact that it has all of this praise, it has this universal praise, as Ryan was saying, but it delivers on so many levels for like the low end collectors, the mid end collectors, the premium velvet rope collectors. Like, all those people have something to chase in this product, which makes it so much different. And I think the market itself, and I'm going to take this a different direction. The market, this is one of the last years the market will be as it is, because Fanatics is approaching consolidation in a way that will take a lot of this away in the next year or two. So the way that we engage with the hobby today is going to dramatically change as we progress through the Fanatics consolidation plan, like cutting off distributors, going exclusive with breakers, like all the things that I talk about on Twitter all day. Those things will change the way that the collector exists within the hobby. And for most wrestling collectors, have no fucking clue what that means. Right. And it's fine. Like they inherently avoided it, which is understandable. But they have to understand that those ripples from the hobby is going to impact everything that they know about cards, regardless if it's old cards or new cards. The Fanatics consolidation plan, whether that's, like I mentioned, distributors and breakers, we're talking about grading, we're talking about shops, retail, direct to consumer products. All of that's going to change. And that's only if they don't buy Panini as well. So like, if they go and consolidate card companies even further,
they're buying Panini.
Everything. No, I agree too.
100%.
Yeah, it's happening. It's happening. Yeah, it's happening. But I think when that happens, a lot of the face of the way that the hobby exists is going to change dramatically. And as that changes for the industry side of things, it will change for the secondary market side of things. And we can get into that on a different conversation. But
we'll definitely have a conversation about that.
Yeah. So I think that the market, this is the last year or two that collectors will exist the way that they do right now.
I agree.
Well, I think we covered a lot of ground here, guys, about
We
people's
did.
mindsets and then how we're collecting. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out. I know we've talked for a long time. I mean, hell, we all can talk forever about when it comes to wrestling cards in this market. And I love talking about it. So my wife thinks I'm super nerd here. So, but gives me all kinds of shit for it. But Adam, now that people already know where you're at, how can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at WWE Gellman and on Twitter as at SC Uncensored.
How about you, Jamie?
Twitter is at Axel_Foley13, and then Instagram about 5 years too late, but it's at Axel_Foley_13 PC.
There's 13 other Axel Foleys.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
I just picked a number. I don't know why 13, but
it's very lucky for you, maybe. How about you, Ryan?
Instagram, I don't do anything with cards on there. That's pretty much just my showcase for my my daughters now. My younger one got back into jiu-jitsu, and she's good too, man. I got it goes back to the paying the bills, $120 a tournament or whatever, I
told you in a couple of years I want to represent her for conventions and stuff like that and take care of her as an agent.
Love it. Make sure you send us some autographs.
I tell you what, she's an animal and she loves cursive. So hey, I'm doing
perfect.
Right, I guess.
It's a lost start.
I'm on Twitter at Slim Jim Madness. Pretty much anything Tony posts or Jamie or Adam posts, I'll be in there making a comment or something like
Oh,
that.
yeah, you're no short of comment, that's for sure. None of you guys are, really.
So, I got a lot
Yeah,
to
right.
say.
Everything can be
we've been
yeah.
around this for too many years to
That's
stay
right.
quiet, right?
Everything for us guys is on WrestlingTradingCards.com. All the links to everything we have on the bottom of every page. Like, comment, share, complain, bitch, whatever you want to do. As long as you're engaging, talking about the hobby, growing the hobby, that's all we really care about is growing this hobby, make it the best it possibly can be. And with that, guys, I really appreciate your time.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
guys. See you.